You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All right, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-host, I almost said Kevin, by Alex. That was going to be my next one there. I got the role there.
In fairness, it is usually me, the one that is missing. So Kevin is always generally with us.
One of those that when you stick to the script a little too hard, like
Yeah.
I believe in the biz they call that pulling the wrong burgundy.
Yep.
I am Ron Burgundy.
Anyway,
yes. So anyway, it is Alex and I rocking and rolling tonight. I know Kevin had some work stuff going on here, and
which is why we're kind of on a different night. We're on Wednesday night right now instead of our typical Tuesday. So we appreciate anybody bearing with us as we navigate the real world here.
Right. Yes. Some of the JOB, some of the
Life.
some of the life. Yep. All the things kind of transpired this week to have kind of that perfect storm. And so glad to anybody tuning in and joining us. I do see we have some questions coming in here, and we'll make sure that we hit those up here and get through those just as quickly as we can. But again, guys, if you have questions, comments, concerns, let's throw those in the chat. Let's get those going so that we can help this push towards the cash and trophies as we get ready here for week 11. But Alex, as we kind of get ready and get going that way, any kind of thoughts to open the show here?
Yeah, it was an interesting week. High scoring, right? Like kicked off on Thursday with Jamar Chase putting up just a bonkers night, right? Like 200 yards. What did he have? In the home league, he had enough to make you cry if you were going up against it.
Yes. It was like 120,
which I think might be the highest individual score that we've ever had in this league. And I know we've had some different scoring things, but 120 feels pretty big. That's a big number. Anyways, huge night for Jamar Chase on Thursday night. And he did all that in a losing effort, which was rough. And then we had some other kind of interesting big weeks, right? From different dudes. We had a Bijan Robinson sighting again. Chuba Hubbard went bonkers, right? In that Germany game, or that Europe game, that early Sunday game tends to put out some weird things. It's either like a super high scoring, somebody goes crazy, or it's just like why did we all wake up at 8:30 in the morning to watch football?
Right. Why did we send this overseas to try and grow the game? This is not a very good representation of what this looks like. But yes, it's one of the two extremes. It's oh my gosh, like this was the perfect game to get up and do, or it's like, oh my gosh, why did this shouldn't even be on television right now?
Yeah. In the home league, and again, if you guys have followed us for any stretch, we have our scoring is inflated. We love inflation in the home league. And we had 4 teams score over 500 points. And unfortunately, 2 of those teams were playing each other, and one of those teams took a loss. So the third highest scorer in the league went up against the second highest scorer in the league and ended up with a loss. And that sucks.
Yes.
And the first highest scorer was my co-host here. So congratulations on putting up a big number. You were really aided by a Bijan sighting. Drake London had a big week for you, and Puka Nacua. Those 2 dudes put up big numbers for you. And then you had the Bills defense, and they went crazy with 3 picks and 4 sacks, putting up a big number. But like Kyler did good, but like you just had really like, and I say solid, but like really above average scores from like 6 different dudes, and that really propelled you to a big week, a big number. Even Terry McLaurin had like a good game for you. Like you just didn't have anybody who had a bad week, and that's rare.
Not true. Jaden Daniels.
That's true. Jaden Daniels didn't have a great week, but he still didn't have a horrible week.
I mean, that was one of those that I'm sure if we take that like into consideration on what that looks like there.
He outscored CJ Stroud.
Yeah, that's fair.
By half a point. He outscored CJ Stroud.
But yeah, like that's one of those that certainly a very down week for Jaden Daniels, who like in a more traditional scoring would have barely finished in a QB2 type of range.
Yeah.
Like, very, very down week for him. But
yeah, it was an interesting week. It was nice. I feel like my team is starting to turn a corner here, which is good, being that we are getting down to it here now, heading to week 11. Should only have a couple weeks before playoffs start, and then we're into it. Right now I am chasing a playoff spot. I am on the outside looking in the home league. But I don't want to say that I feel good, but I like the direction that my team is trending. I feel like I'm getting receivers that are healthy again. And I know that there are people in the league that are a little nervous about the future of their team just based on the number of trade talks that I have had over the last 48 hours with different people in our league.
Send them my way, because I'm looking to make a deal and haven't really had any fruitful conversations there. And I've got the depth that we can actually make some deals happen.
Yeah, you sure do.
So and the sad thing
I do too, but I'm not looking to move because I feel like if my team is firing on all cylinders, I have the best team in the league. They're just not all firing on all cylinders right now.
Fair enough. I don't know. I like my chances up against you on any week. Right? I think top to bottom I've got a roster that could easily compete, if not win. So but yeah, this kind of is what it is, right? Like
I have hope. And that's all you can ask for in fantasy football at this moment, right? Is to just I have hope. And I feel like, and this is what's going to suck, is I feel like I can win this thing. I do need some things to go my way. Obviously, I have no control over anything, but I do have hope that I can. I have a team that is capable of winning it all, and there's been years where that has not been the case.
Right. Well, and I look at my roster, just going, man, like I feel really good about it. But you know how much better I would feel about this roster had I had even more of my top end depth that I had at the wide receiver position at this point, right?
Man, wide receiver has been terrible.
With Rashee Rice and Olave, right? If I had both of those two in there, right? Like that would have been my top 5 wide receivers would have been Rashee Rice, Olave, Puka, Drake London, and Terry McLaurin, right? Like,
yeah,
you got to feel really good about that kind of depth at that position.
I've made 2 trades. You'll get a kick out of this there. I've made 2 trades for wide receivers because it was a position of need. I did not draft it very well. And realistically, I had injuries that had been kind of hampering me. So I have made 2 trades to acquire 2 wide receivers. The first wide receiver that I acquired, Mike Evans, who, as you know, not playing at the moment. And then I had some other pieces that I was able to ship off to acquire Amari Cooper after the deal to Buffalo, right? So I feel like, hey, I've got a competent quarterback. I've got Amari Cooper, who's proven that he can thrive with a competent quarterback in an offense that he would be the dude, right? Who else is going to catch a ball in Buffalo? And then Amari Cooper, is not quite ready to play. It's like, damn, I keep trading for wide receivers. They keep getting hurt. I have the kiss of death.
Right. Yes. So,
but I'm hoping now he's healthy. I do have navigating more buys this week. That's going to kind of, it's a tough week for buys, at least for me. And we'll see. We'll hopefully that he will. He should be in. He's got the questionable tag on him right now. but he should be in. And it would be nice to see him go big, because I need to start stacking wins here.
Yeah. I mean, and I was looking ahead at that. Like, you've got a path to get there, right? Like, especially kind of coming down the stretch. It is kind of in your hands, realistically, right? Like, a win this week puts you back into a game within 500. Next week, right, you've got Kevin playing in the division, and win this week, win next week puts you probably within striking distance of being about a game back at that point of the division. But then right, you get David in week 13, and you get AC in week 14. So yeah, there's certainly some winnable games out there. Just got to go out there and actually finish it off.
Just got to go do it.
and realistically, right, it's probably going to take a 4-0 to get the job done. Maybe 3-1 over the next 4 weeks to do it. But I think 4-0 gets you there. 3-1 may have you knocking on that the back door of that.
You just got to get into the tournament. That's all we know. You just got to get into that tournament.
Right. Yeah. Because, I mean, right now you're only a game back of that 8 seed anyway. Yep. So, like, it's...
Yeah. I need some things to go my way. The middle part of the season was not kind to me, and it just didn't work.
Right. Yeah, it happens.
But we get hot at the right time. We hope it's for the best.
Absolutely. So I do see that we have some questions in here. Anything else you want to hit up here before we start jumping into some questions?
Nah.
All righty. So Terrence over on YouTube, should I start Burrow or Purdy this week?
Well, so Purdy's at home against Seattle. Burrow's going to be on the road Sunday night in LA taking on the Chargers, who all of a sudden, right, they're 3-1 at home. They're 6-3 overall. Like, the Chargers look good. I think if you think you're going to get the same game that you got out of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase last week, think again. That was a freakish performance. It was crazy. I do not see them replicating that again this season. Like, that would be crazy if they did. I think I would lean, if Christian McCaffrey is playing, I lean Brock Purdy. At home against Seattle, with a healthy Christian McCaffrey, I lean Brock Purdy. But I could be talked into Joe Burrow. I do think they're going to need to throw the football a little bit more in LA there. So I'm leaning Purdy.
Yeah, I could see that, right? Like, he's got the better matchup. Things certainly kind of point in that direction and make a lot of sense to go with a Brock Purdy in that kind of situation there. The problem is that with Brock Purdy, it is going to come down to relying heavily, right? Like, it's not all just on Brock Purdy to go out there and win the games, right? Like, if Cincinnati's going to stay in these games and have a chance of winning, it's going to come down to Joe Burrow's right arm. That's really where it's going to come down to. And I guess kind of the way that I look at that as well is, if you are looking at the Brock Purdy side of things, do you think Brock Purdy is going to drop back and throw the ball more than 30 times?
No.
Okay. Do you think Joe Burrow is going to drop back and throw the ball 40 times or more?
40 feels like a big number.
It does. But it's also, keep in mind, he just dropped back and threw it 56 times last week.
Right. I think the game will be different.
Yeah, the Chargers have shown up good on the defensive side of things.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, Terrence, I'm not going to be a great answer giver here. And if we're being honest, you should probably listen to Derek over me when it comes to this stuff. So if Derek's leaning Burrow, which I feel like that's the way he's walking me right now,
I'm just asking the question.
I would listen to him. I say that I have Purdy in one of my leagues, and I need him to have a big week. So I'm hoping that it's a good play to start him this week.
Okay, and I mean, this is probably one of the best. Like, realistically, I think both of these guys could be. I think it's probably a pretty safe top 8 QB on the week.
Yeah.
In there, right? I think Brock Purdy probably has the much safer floor.
Yep.
I think Joe Burrow has the much higher ceiling. So, Terrence, as far as answering that question goes, we're going to see a lot more opportunity for Joe Burrow to step back and just kind of rocket the ball, and the Bengals, if they're going to win this game, it's going to come at the strength of Joe Burrow's right arm, right? The Niners, not so much, right? Like, this may be one of those that we see these two teams kind of duke it out. Seattle, San Francisco, typically a pretty good matchup in that division, anyway. But all of that being said, right? Like, if you're looking at this thing from a standpoint of you just need the safer floor, you need the quarterback to go out there and get you have 16, 17, 18 points, and that's what you need as far as the rest of your lineup goes to try and get a win. Brock Purdy is your guy. If you need your quarterback to accelerate and try and pick up 22, 23 points, that higher ceiling is going to be the Burrow side of things, right? Burrow could leave you with the lower floor to it, and could be an issue there, right? But because the Chargers certainly have been playing good defensive football there. They could turn over it a couple of times, things like that. So it is that's how the answer for me is Purdy's a safer floor, Burrow's the higher ceiling to it. And I would, but both are great starts this week. So, any other thoughts on this one?
No.
All right, Terrence over on YouTube, Broncos, Jets, or Saints defense, special teams this week?
Give me the Jets going up against Anthony Richardson, who has just renamed the starter in Indianapolis. Jets are at home going up against that mess of an offense. Jets defense isn't terrible, right? Broncos are going to be taking on an Atlanta team that can chuck the ball around a little bit and has some options, right? We just saw a good Drake London. Like, Kirk Cousins is still a good quarterback in this league. Like, not a great quarterback, right? But a good quarterback. And then the Saints,
they've got Cleveland.
They got Cleveland, who Jameis is going to chuck the ball around too. So, like, your options, I think your Saints, new coach, who knows what's going to happen there. But I think I'm going to lean the Jets here. I think the Jets give me the best route to the most points.
Yeah, I would agree with that, right? Like, the Saints, right? They certainly have they probably have the best opportunities to create some turnovers on that one. So I could see that one. The Broncos have just kind of owned the NFC South this season so far. Right, they're 3-0 against the NFC South. They take on Atlanta this week, so they very well could sweep that division this season. And Atlanta hasn't looked necessarily great on the road. They haven't necessarily had a ton of super impressive wins there. So this could be one of those that this is a more defensive battle there, right? The Broncos have had a really good defense there. But Alex said, that the chance still remains that you could see Kirk Cousins go out there and will this team to 30 points, right? Like, could happen. And the Jets, give me the Jets against Anthony Richardson and the Colts. This is, again, one of those that now we've got a quarterback in there that has a hard time completing 50% of the passes, and we'll see a lot of drives likely stall out. And the Jets, should be just good enough defensively to limit the over-the-top passes that seem to be kind of how the Colts are able to score with Anthony Richardson under center. So, I'm leaning the Jets as well. Terrence over on YouTube, Ferguson, Pat Fryermuth, or Knox this week if Dalton Kincaid is out at the tight end?
If I rank these, I'm going to go Ferguson, Fryermuth, Knox in that order. Ferguson first, I think, because this is now Cooper Rush's team, right? This is what we are gonna deal with the rest of the way now that Dak is officially out for the rest of the season. So you've heard me say it if you've listened to the show at all. A young quarterback or an inexperienced quarterback's best friend is a great pass catching tight end because it's easy to get the ball out to them quick. So give me Ferguson. Fryermuth, I mean, he's obviously been a target in that offense as well. And then Knox is my third.
Fair enough. I'd rotate that myself. I would go with Fryermuth as the start, Ferguson as the bench, and I don't really want the Dawson Knox, relying on that one there. And a lot of that has to do with kind of the comes with the matchups, things like that, right? The Ravens giving up the 12th most points to opposing tight ends. The Texans the 26th most points. So Jake Ferguson has a much tougher matchup there. But I could still see kind of the where you're going with that one, because we're likely to probably see Jake Ferguson get in the 5, 6, 7 target type of range there. So I do think that Jake Ferguson has a better. I'm saying all of this to kind of wish-wash myself. I do think that Ferguson has the better path to points, better path for opportunity in this one. So let me amend my thought originally to Fryermuth is the floor, Ferguson's the ceiling, and Knox is the bench.
And Terrence, I'm going to give you maybe some more unsolicited advice. This shouldn't be if Dalton Kincaid is out. This should be if you have Ferguson or Knox, you should be playing them over Dalton Kincaid this week. This shouldn't be a if he's out.
You mean it's Dawson Knox if, right? Like looking at Knox if Kincaid's out, because then he kind of gets that sole Buffalo tight end work.
Yeah, okay, I get what you're saying now.
Right.
Okay. I got you. I was gonna say, if you're in between Knox and Kincaid, like this shouldn't even be. You should be playing Ferguson or Fryermuth no matter what.
Right. Knox certainly kind of sneaks into that if the if Kincaid's out, but I don't know that it changes my answer. It's Fryermuth is the or Ferguson's the floor. Or I'm sorry, Fryermuth's the floor, Ferguson's the ceiling, and Knox is the bench. And if you add Gesicki into that mix, I would put him over Knox. But I don't know that I necessarily want to rock and roll that too much either.
I think I would be in between Ferguson and Gesicki as like a, what do I like here? Gesicki is shown, but I think he's coming off of an injury, so I'm not entirely sure how healthy he is. So I think I'd lean Ferguson here. I think I'd stay Ferguson.
Okay. Well, there we go, Terrence. Next question. We have Amari or Najee at the flex if they both play.
I'm hoping Amari. I'm hoping to see him have a big week. So selfishly, I hope it's Amari. Najee, they're going up against, I know we just talked about this. Who are the Saints have? Or not the Saints, excuse me. Steelers
are playing Baltimore.
Oh, man. Shoot. The Chiefs' pass defense is pretty salty, too.
If Najee is playing, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go that route.
It feels safer, doesn't it?
Yeah, and
It
that's
feels
really
like
kind of
the volume will be better towards Najee than it will be towards Amari.
right, and that's kind of a lot of where that comes down to for me on this one is Najee is the safer floor. Amari Cooper, I think, probably has the potential for a higher ceiling, especially if it's a and I guess let me rephrase that. If it's a full point PPR, Amari has the potential for a higher ceiling, but yeah, at that point, one if one plays, the other doesn't. That makes the decision easy for you. Top five. But if both are healthy and going, I think I lean the Najee route myself.
Yeah, I agree with that. But again, selfishly, I need Amari Cooper to have a big week.
Fair enough. Freeze over on YouTube. 10-team PPR trade James Conner, McLaurin, Najee for Gibbs and Debo. Other wide receivers, Jamar, Amon-Ra, Cup. Other wide receivers, Derrick Henry, Chase Brown, Brian Robinson Jr.
We're trading James Conner, McLaurin, and Najee for Gibbs and Debo.
I'd rather have the Connor.
I think I'd rather have the Connor
McLaurin
Najee side. Yeah, look, Gibbs is going to be good, but like Gibbs still shares the backfield with David Montgomery, right? Like that is still very much not his backfield. I think Debo Samuel. I was just talking to somebody about this today. We were discussing who they thought would have a better rest of season, who would have more stats between CeeDee Lamb and Debo Samuel, and it's an interesting one because CeeDee Lamb doesn't have his quarterback anymore, right? And Debo Samuel just had the addition of Christian McCaffrey back to that lineup. So I said I think CD has a better rest of season, but that's only because I think Debo loses out to CMC work. And I still maintain that I think that that's not a great thing for Debo. I think it opens up some things, but I think it drops some of his usage the rest of the way. So I would rather have the Connor, McLaurin, Najee side.
Yeah, and the way I look at that is I'd rather have McLaurin over Debo straight up, right?
Yeah.
That's where I look at that as well. On the Gibbs side of things, James Conner, Najee. So it's a two RB2s for an RB1, right? Like I see that one, and on paper that makes sense there. But James Conner has a terrific kind of tail end of the season going into the strength of schedule playoffs. And so does Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs probably has a slightly better rest of the season and a playoff strength of schedule there. So I like that side of it. Najee certainly has a much tougher road coming down to it to finish off the season here. But I do like the depth there. And if you're running out Derrick Henry and James Conner week in, week out, and you've got the depth with Najee, Chase Brown, and Brian Robinson Jr., right? Like you look at, you're kind of looking at that. You've got three RB2s on your roster for depth that you can flex in between a flex role if needed, or if somebody goes down and gets hurt. Like I'd rather have that kind of depth going in there. Or I'd be looking to try and make a push for more than Gibbs at that point, right? Like I'd rather have a Joe Mixon at that point.
It's a great roster construct with Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra, and Cooper Kupp. Like, what a problem! What a problem to have.
Well, and if you've got McLaurin in there as well, right?
Right. Like, what an awesome problem to have.
Like this is one of those that it starts getting tough because now you really do have hard decisions at the flex play every week. Because are you going to roll out there McLaurin? Are you going to roll out there Kupp or Chase Brown or Brian Robinson or James Conner, like whoever that is, right? Like that can be a problem, right? And I can understand that, but if I'm looking to do that deal, I'm looking to aim a little higher than Jahmyr Gibbs. In my opinion there. But any other thoughts on this one?
No, I'm not doing that deal.
Okay. Well, I guess if
Or
you're giving
unless
up Gibbs and
yeah,
Debo
I'm
for
doing the
Connor,
deal if I'm getting Connor, McLaurin, and Najee.
right?
That's the side I want.
Okay. Mr. Wumbo, welcome back in there. Over on YouTube, we start 3 wide receiver, 2 running back, 1 tight end, 1 flex, and the wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends after trades are Chase, Amon-Ra, Devonta Smith, Ladd McConkey, Tillman, Leggett. The running backs are Bijan with the handcuff, a Hunt with Pacheco. So you got the handcuff there. Warren, and tight ends are McBride and Njoku.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. I think he's got another one here.
Alrighty, so Mr. Wumbo had to trade away my RB3 depth to trade up and get Njoku and upgrade wide receivers, but now I'm wide receiver heavy, which isn't a bad thing, but I'm wondering if I should stick with that or try to get a running back.
Okay, go back to his.
All right, and I don't know that you necessarily need to go out there and get another running back, right? Because if something happens with Bijan, you got the handcuff there, right? If something Hunt with Pacheco coming back there, you've got the handcuff there. I'm not a big believer in the Jalen Warren side of things, but I mean that's beside the point at this time. Because you're going to roll out there Chase, Amon-Ra, and Devonta Smith week in, week out.
Yeah, so that makes Ladd, Tillman, and Leggett your pieces if you're looking, or those are your pieces that you're trying to
Those would be
upgrade
your
with.
Yeah, those would be your flexes there.
I don't know.
Ladd, McConkey, or Tillman, I wouldn't have a problem running out kind of week in, week out on the flex type of thing, right? Like where those guys have been playing kind of down the stretch here. I really think that you're in probably a pretty good shape there. And let's just kind of see what this looks like over the last 3 weeks here.
Yeah, I don't know that you necessarily need to go hunting for another running back at the moment, because you're going to start your 2 running backs are going to be Bijan and Hunt. You have the built-in handcuff in case there's injuries. I haven't read up on where Pacheco's recovery is or how close he is to coming back, but I feel like you're okay.
I mean, and realistically, you need Njoku to get through this week. And then after that, I don't know that there's going to be much that you're going to be.
Trey McBride.
Yeah, I don't know that you're going to be starting Njoku over McBride really in any week. So it's a depth piece there. But as far as the wide receivers go, right, with Ladd and Tillman, right, over the last 3 weeks, Cedric Tillman is the 3rd highest scoring fantasy wide receiver in half-point PPR, and Ladd McConkey's number 12. Right,
all right.
so
he's given us some more information too.
Okay, let's take a look here. He's saying the only team that he can see that has 3 decent running backs that might need some wide receiver help has Jonathan Taylor, Swift, and Connor. So it'd be some combination of Smith, Ladd, Tillman, Leggett for any of those guys. Would it or would it not be worth it?
So I think if you could, I don't know, float out the idea of a Tillman for Connor straight up and see if that gets the ball rolling. Connor would be the only guy that I'd really want off of that list, right? For reasons that Derek said earlier. But I don't think you need to give up the farm to get him. I don't know if a Tillman gets that guy excited. I certainly am not giving up a Devonta Smith for James Conner. I'm not doing that.
I don't know that I have that big of a problem with that, to be perfectly honest.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you plug in a Ladd McConkey or a Tillman.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a wide receiver 3, I don't mind that, especially when these guys have been kind of going down the stretch now. It's kind of unconventional, sure. But yeah, and Connor, depending upon where they're at with this other team, right? Connor's going into a bye week. So,
Yeah, he's a bye week this week. Yep.
Right. So there could be some of that there. But this might be one of those that it might be worth looking more so after this week, right? And what that looks like more so than going into the week. The reason I say that is, right, like see what you could do on packaging a Njoku and a Ladd or Tillman or Devonta Smith, right? I don't know that you need to necessarily, completely kind of gut the wide receiver depth that you have there. But I can understand wanting to go out and get a kind of a third running back there. But again, with what you've got, I don't know that that's necessarily needed either.
Yeah, I don't. I love the idea of making a move just to make a move, but I don't. We get into fantasy football because we love to tinker, right? We can have fun and we can do what we want with our roster. We get to be in charge of it, and generally there's really no rules as to what we can do. And if we don't like something, we can keep going and tinkering with it as long as we can. But sometimes you can tinker yourself to death, and I just don't know that doing that, making a move for the sake of you feel like you need to make a move, isn't always the best move.
So he's saying that the trade deadline is
coming up
16th in that league. So yeah, you would have to make it this week. That makes sense there. And then saying that he's already eating it a bit on week 12 due to the Bijan bye. So he'll be starting Warren, which sucks, but whatever.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's late buys this week. This year. There's late buys. So I think, I don't know. I don't think you need to move. I feel like you have a pretty good roster construct right now.
Mr. Wumba, what's the where are we at in relation to playoffs at this point? Let me know that. Let me know the team that has the Connor JT Swift side of things. What does their tight end room look like, and what does their wide receiver room look like? Like, hit me up with those things because I'm cooking an idea here, but I want a little more information before we kind of rock through that. So hit us up with that. We'll come back to that one. Binkin saying, "What's up, fellas?" Not much. You know how we're doing it on a Wednesday now, normally a Tuesday. So, Binkin also asking, when do you guys think the Bills will feature Amari Cooper? Will it be this season, or are they saving him for the playoffs?
God, I hope it's this week.
Right.
I hope it's this week. I think so. They're coming off of the bye, right? They had a bye. That's helpful, right? So he gets healthy, right? 2, he gets a little bit more time to look at the playbook, understand the playbook, understand, kind of the verbiage and everything that they plan on using or that they use there in Buffalo. So, and look, Amari Cooper's he's no slouch. He's been in plenty of different offenses, as exotic as we like to think that all these offenses are, they're all the same thing. They just have different ways of saying it, right? Like,
right. It's learning a different language.
All the same thing. It's like learning a different language, but it's all the same thing. So, I think that they didn't trade for him to use him in the playoffs because I think they're in a fight to get into the playoffs, right? They need to be playing good football, getting into the playoffs, and Amari Cooper needs to be a part of that.
Right. Now, and actually we misspoke a little bit ago. Their bye week is week 12. So I think one of those
Buffalo's is?
Yes. So we're going into week 11, right? If he's banged up at all, wouldn't surprise me if they hold him out here again, right? Like at that point, that gives him another basically 2 full weeks to get healthy, get back on track, get, fully accustomed there. So
my apologies. I thought they had a bye week. They just played the Colts. I'm sorry. It's one and the same.
Almost the same.
One and the same.
That whole thing. Tell me the difference between these 2 pictures.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Same thing.
Anyway, so it wouldn't surprise me if we see Amari Cooper.
Yeah, it could be another week. Yeah,
coming. Yeah, really in week 13 and closing out the season. It would not surprise me to see that one.
I think he does still have a questionable tag still on him, so it's not set in stone that he's playing, and that's really gonna piss me off when he doesn't.
and I mean, at this point, the Bills are 8-2 in the AFC East. The Dolphins are the next closest at 3-6. So, yeah, there's a lot of games in between.
Really gonna upset me.
What is that? 4.5 games ahead with 7 to play, or not even? Yeah, 7 to play.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, at that point they can slow roll him too. So I think we'll see him about week 13 is kind of my guess there. Mr. Wumbo saying that they have no clue what they're doing with Cooper. No, he drops the ball and has had an injury, but even with basically no wide receivers, the team should be getting like 8 targets.
At a minimum. There's nobody else. There's nobody else on that team that is a wide receiver. So like it's tight ends, running backs, and then it's like that's a terrible reference. I'm not going to make it. It's bad. It's bad.
And then Binkin saying LOL. Kel's 22 over on YouTube saying JSN, Cup, Garrett Wilson, Juwan Jennings, JMO, pick 3 to start. Garrett Wilson, Cup.
Give me
Wilson and Cup for sure.
JSN's been playing well of late, especially if DK's not going to go, and I know he still has an injury distinction on him this week. I like JSN if DK doesn't go. But I think I'm looking to see something here. So man.
For me, it's Cup, Wilson, start. JSN is the floor for me. Juwan Jennings and JMO are both ceiling shots. So you can kind of take your pick on that one there. If you're needing a shot in the arm, you're needing to chase some points on that one, I would go Juwan Jennings or JMO over JSN, especially if Debo's playing.
And the Lions are playing the Jaguars, which I mean just held Minnesota in check, but
yeah, Sam Darnold also threw a bunch of interceptions. Like
so many interceptions. It was like he forgot what team he was playing for.
Right. We saw vintage Sam Darnold, not 2024. Yes.
I saw the ghost seeing Sam Darnold. And I still managed to win that game. Yeah, I co-sign on that. JSN's safe, but if you need to get some points, you got to go with. I would lean JMO over Juwan Jennings.
There's also a chance too that we see the Lions do to Jacksonville what we've seen them do to lesser competition all season, where
the
game is over at halftime, right? And they're up,
but they put up a 50 burger in the first half, yeah,
right. But that 50 burger didn't come necessarily even on the offensive side of things there,
right.
Like JMO has the widest range of outcomes to this one.
Yeah.
Like that's the wild card on this one. JSN as that third guy, I think probably has the safer floor to it. Juwan Jennings, I think, has a little bit of a bigger ceiling. And also with a little bit of a safer floor than JMO there as well. So it really kind of comes down to what you need matchup wise.
I think if DK is not going, and I don't know if you have the luxury of you will have the luxury of knowing because Juwan Jennings is in that same game. So you'll have the luxury of knowing if it's JSN or Juwan Jennings. So it's Cup and Wilson. If DK can't go, it's JSN.
Yeah, that solves it pretty easy for me.
And because it's the same game, you'll know the injury report.
Yep. So yeah, if DK's out, I'm just rolling JSN at that point.
Yeah.
Binkin saying that muted can't hear anything.
Am I the only one who figured it out?
All right, Mr. Wumbo saying that he can hear. So all right, so there we go. We've got it fixed. The tech support issues are real tonight apparently. Kel's asking, love or keep Russ cooking this week?
Ooh, interesting.
Jordan Love or the Russell Wilson?
Man, they're right next to each other too in the rankings. Man, give me Jordan Love at Chicago instead of the guy playing the Ravens defense this week. Like, give me Jordan Love. I like that matchup better than Russ against Baltimore.
See, I like the Russ against Baltimore side of things better. The Baltimore secondary is one of the worst defensive units in the league.
Yeah, but when these two get together, it's always a 9-6 game.
We think that until
So it's a 44-42.
Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, or Cincinnati,
Cincinnati,
that
Baltimore
whole
get together.
AFC North is typically so gridiron, lock them in, we're 2 yards cloud of dust all day, and it just hasn't been that way the last year or so. So, yeah, I'm going to take Russ in this scenario, especially with the fact that Baltimore just loves giving up points through the air, and Chicago has one of the better secondaries in the league there as well. So, yeah, I'm going to take the better matchup between the two.
Yeah, you've talked me into it. Russ is at home too.
Okay, there we go. Kels, Russ, or are we going golfing? Got to pick one.
Jared Goff all day.
Yeah, I got to go with that one as well.
Not even close.
Yeah, the only concern I have with Goff is one of those that
he'll play the whole game. He'll play the whole game.
Well, he'll play the whole game, but my concern is with Goff is that they jump out 20-3, and we just see
just turning around and hitting the ball off.
Yes, we see a very healthy dose of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs each getting 20 carries in the game.
Yeah, I still like my chances of Goff putting up a bigger number than Russ.
That's also fair. All right. Blizzard over on YouTube. What's up? Got one more flex spot to fill. Who you got? Brian Robinson Jr., Brian Thomas Jr., or Juwan Jennings?
Well, Brian Robinson, you're going to have to make a decision on because they play tomorrow in Philadelphia. I'm not sure I like that. Jennings, again, with a healthy Christian McCaffrey, if he's healthy. I just saw, again, that they threw a designation on him today, and I didn't see why. Who's the third? Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. also questionable.
Dang, that sucks.
And Jacksonville has Detroit.
Yeah. I guess Brian Robinson Jr. is my pick here, but I don't like it.
Fair enough. Blizzard, how I would look at this one is I see Brian Robinson as the floor play, especially if he goes, right? Like this is one of those that we've already seen reports coming out saying that he's going to go, he's going to play. I think that he's probably the floor play in this one. I think Juwan Jennings is probably more the ceiling play in this one. And Brian Thomas Jr., I really just don't like that matchup against Detroit.
Yeah.
So, and at this point too, I still believe that we've got
Mac Jones time, right? It's still Mac Jones.
We got the Mac Jones experience, and yeah, I think that does not spell out good things for Brian Thomas Jr. So that's how I've got that. B-Rob floor, Jennings ceiling, BTJ bench. Tells over on YouTube, JMO, Parasol, or Dobbs. Got to pick two of them.
I think I go JMO and Dobbs. I feel like that's the safest combination. Look, Pearsall is great because he got a touchdown, right, in the last game. But like, I don't think you're going to get that. I'm trying to look up his line here really quick.
Yeah, I mean, Parasol had a really good game, right? Like 6 targets, 4 receptions, 73 yards, and a tutty, and including that one long touchdown of 46
yards. Yeah. So I mean, again, you take that play away, that's half of his yardage and the touchdown, which you can't take that play away because it happened, right? Like that happened.
Right. I mean, that's it's kind of goes back to one of those that Dobbs is going to be a safer floor for you, right? Like Dobbs is probably going to get a very reliable 5 to 6 targets, 4 catches, 40 yards, maybe he gets into the end zone, right? Like that's kind of where I see that come into play, and the touchdown is very questionable at that point, right? So don't misconstrue what I'm saying there, but Jameson Williams, I'm going to play him out of the 3 for sure. So that's my start. Parasol, right? Like there's a reason that we saw him drafted in the first round.
And if it weren't for, a freak thing totally away from football, right?
Right. Like, I mean, he dealt with some injuries coming into the preseason, right? The incident that happened prior to the start of season as well.
Somebody shot him.
Right. All of those things there. But Parasol still was, while he's getting worked in there, had it was like 65% of the snaps and around about a 17% target share, right? Like, so, and that was even with Juwan Jennings, Debo, Kittle, CMC, all of that in there. So I don't mind that one. And I think Parasol has the bigger ceiling than Dobbs. So depending upon what your matchup needs there, I would go Parasol as the ceiling play, Dobbs as the floor play on that one.
Yep.
All righty. Terry, welcome in, Terry. Over on YouTube, Full Point PPR trade away Kupp and Najee to acquire Brees and Jaden Reed. Team is Murray, Bijan, JT, St. Brown, Kupp, Otton, Garrett Wilson, benches Najee, Rashad White, DK, Tua, James Cook, and Pitts.
Brees and Jaden Reed. So you upgrade at running back. Do you upgrade at receiver?
I mean, I guess at that point, right? Like Terry, it all comes down to how you're wanting to construct this roster, right? Because yes, you're giving away Najee as a bench play, but at that time, right? Like you've got Bijan, JT, and Brees, so that you're probably going to playing each of those guys as RB1, 2, and flex, and then you're going to be down to Amon-Ra and Garrett Wilson as your wide receiver 1 and 2. DK is there, but I don't know where DK is going to fit into that roster because I don't know that you're going to necessarily go out and put him in there as a flex play over any one of those guys, or same thing with James Cook. And Jaden Reed, you're going to have a harder time predicting those blow up games there. So I don't know that he's going to necessarily see that lineup as well, right? Like Jaden Reed, DK are going to have similar week in, week out type of deals where you're going to have to try and guess the matchup and which weeks is the blow up week at that point. And I don't know that you're going to come to that decision where either one of those guys is going to be starting over Amon-Ra or Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
So I don't know
that I'd do it.
I mean, it makes all the sense in the world on it because you're kind of upgrading in that and providing more depth, but I don't know that I want to get rid of kind of the floor and ceiling play that Cooper Kupp is to go with just ceiling upshot at that point, right? Because Cooper Kupp's still going to see 7, 8, 9 targets a game. Jaden Reed is just not. So it makes sense on paper. It's a fair trade and an even trade. And if you'd rather have the Brees and the Jaden Reed side, I don't have a problem with it. So, any other thoughts on that one?
Nah.
Jake Ferguson or David Njoku?
Njoku.
Same. Cosign. Terry, over on YouTube, best flex play, full point PPR, Ridley, Mooney, Chubb, JSN. I really don't mind the Mooney side of things. because London's going to draw the coverage on that, and you're going to see Mooney with off coverage there, so I don't mind that.
Yeah, I don't mind the Mooney. Well, yeah, because London's going to grab Sertan.
Most likely.
So Mooney's not a terrible play. I think of the options, I like Mooney the best. JSN, I think, is your second. Who's
I don't mind the Nick Chubb side of things.
I was just going to look to see that one.
I really don't. I like the Nick Chubb side of things there, and I think that he probably gives you the highest floor of the four. I really don't mind Jackson Smith-Njigba, but that's if DK misses.
Yeah.
And between the other two, then I think Ridley provides you a higher ceiling, and Mooney provides a safer floor at that point. But I'd probably lean on the Nick Chubb side of things there, more so than anything else. I say that to then say, you know what, I'm going to take that back. We've seen Calvin Ridley since week 6 with 8 or more targets in each one of the games.
He's been a nightmare, yeah.
I'm gonna ride the hot hand, and I'm gonna say Ridley at that point. That's where I'm going, Terry. Final answer.
They've figured something out there. Yeah, you know what? I'm with you.
Okay. Terry, asking which defense would you want rest of the season, Kansas City or the Rams?
Well, I have to look at what the rest of their season looks like.
I'm taking Kansas City. Yeah, I'm taking Kansas City. Like they've been pretty good all year. And then
they get the Panthers, the Raiders. So they have 2 cakewalks. The Chargers will be difficult. That's a Sunday night game, but it's at home. At Cleveland, that could be, who knows what that Cleveland team looks like in the middle of December, a month from now. They get Houston at home in the end of December. At Pittsburgh, at Denver to end the season for Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm still taking Kansas City.
The Rams are at New England. They've got the Eagles at home on a Sunday night. They're at New Orleans. Home against the Bills, at San Francisco, at New York. Jeez Louise. Just travel alone. They've got 3 cross-country trips that they're taking here.
Yeah, I'm still going with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs too.
All righty. Chris over on YouTube, Nico if he plays or Debo at wide receiver 2. I'm going to take Nico if he plays.
Yeah, I like Nico if he plays too. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
How do you feel, Kel's over on YouTube, how do you feel about Will Dissly? He seems to be building chemistry with Justin Herbert. Still feel pretty meh about that one.
I like Will Dissly. Saw him play in college.
Right.
Do you know where he went to college?
I'm sure you're going to tell me.
I am. I'm pretty sure he's a San Diego kid. University of San Diego. Is that right? Oh, Washington.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know he was
transferred. He transferred.
Okay.
There's no way. Oh, now I have to look this up because I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So, anyway, Will Dissly, I don't know that there's much that I'm going to be like, oh yay, it's Will Disley, and I'm looking to really roster him in any of my leagues, much less start him. Now this is a guy that I think is a touchdown dependent tight end. And if he does catch a touchdown, he might make it into a top 10 tight end on the week. But that's kind of where I see on that one. I'm not looking to really go out there and bust the fab budget on that one.
I know nothing. Will Disley only went to college at the University of Washington. I'm dumb.
Okay, moving on.
Anyways, back to the question that, what Derek said.
Okay. Chris, also on YouTube, 12-person league, 7-3, Hertz, Achan, Chase Brown, Lamb, Nico, McBride, London, benches, Mason, Jennings, Kate Otten, Brad Robinson Jr., Tillman. Any moves next week and onward? Would you start Otten over McBride?
Ooh, see, that's a tough one. That's a very great question. Obviously, it's Otten this week, right? Because McBride's. Right. Oh wait, no.
Yes, McBride's on the bench. So's Otten though.
So it's Otten because it's a bye. Cardinals and Bucks both have a bye this week. So figure that out.
Right.
I think you need to play it by matchup. Which is pretty easy to find out, right? Like it's pretty easy to see what defenses do to opposing tight ends. But I think you need to pay attention about what each team's matchup is when it comes to that. You do have a decision to make there between Otten and McBride. It's not just to set it and forget it and be done with the tight end position. Because Otten, I think, has proved that he is a reliable target for Baker Mayfield in that offense with the subtraction of Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. And McBride has just been a consistent safety and security blanket for Kyler. So I think you need to pay attention to what that matchup looks like.
Yeah.
And figure out who you're starting at tight end this week.
Yes. I mean, that's kind of what I would look as well. Is you're just going to go matchup dependent and really play the matchups there and what that looks like. As far as moves to make, I don't know that there's anything really that I would go out and do. The strength of this team is all around the wide receivers in this one. Maybe try and Mason at this point, right? Like I thought that we'd see the Niners roll out McCaffrey a little bit on the slower side and build him up a little bit. And, we saw every other running back in there get like one carry last week. So I don't think we're going to see a ramp up or build up. And at this point, Mason's really only carrying more value if CMC gets hurt again. So,
I got a thought here. And I had this conversation earlier with somebody else who was looking to move off of CeeDee Lamb, the person that I was talking to. They were trying to move off of CeeDee Lamb. And I wasn't interested because I didn't really need CeeDee Lamb without his quarterback. But you might be able to find somebody who is interested in CeeDee Lamb without his quarterback. And that would be a decent piece, I think, where you're not going to get the production that you signed up for the rest of the season. But I do think that you could flip him into a nice piece.
Potentially. Certainly the option.
I think you need to find somebody who's a little bit naive to the world around them, but you might be able to pull a fast one.
There you go. But
other than that, no, I don't think you need to do anything.
Right. But I mean, there's also something too that I'm okay with holding on to Lamb, right? Especially with Nico returning and London, because Nico, London returning, you've got two top 12 wide receivers there, and you've got Lamb that you can use more as a flex. And sign me up for a flex play consideration on a guy that's going to see double-digit targets, even with his quarterback not there, right? Like it's a lot of volume and opportunity there, but it's kind of how I look at that one. Kels over on YouTube saying Dicker or Bates or Romo pick up the best kicker matchup.
Oh God. Hang on.
Well, I can tell you that Bates and Dicker, neither one of them play in a
They're
dome.
not playing in the dome this week.
And actually, none of the kickers are playing in the dome, Alex.
So give me Bates then. I feel like he's going to have the most opportunity at PATs.
Right. And field goals,
and
right?
Field goals, yeah.
All right. So Mr. Wumbo saying that there are in fourth place, first in points, 6 and 4, and they're in ninth place, 6 in points. So doing their.
But this is back to the trade deal that we were talking about earlier.
Yes. But 3 and 1, but 3 and 7, but fifth place to 12th place is 5 and 10 to 10 and 0. So he's still in the mix. 6 teams get into the playoffs. Okay.
And then he's got another one here.
Right. And he's saying that the wide receivers are Nico Pickens, Moore, which hasn't been doing well, Deontay, who is junk now, Myers, Jerry Jeudy, and Bateman. Okay, I like the Jacoby Myers side of this thing. Traded in Myers after week 8 to get Pacheco before any news of if he'd be even playing this year. So he's trying to compete and isn't asleep at the wheel. Okay. So kind of going back to, let's see here. They've got the running backs of JT, Swift, and Connor. You know, I would see if you could package up Jalen Warren, package up Njoku, you even throw in a wide receiver, right? Like I'd start with
He can't do it. He can't do it. He needs Njoku to play this week.
You pick up a tight end off the waiver.
Okay.
Right? Like it's one of those that's why I wanted to know where we're at in the standings, all of that kind of stuff. Because, right, if this is one of those that you're 6 and you're in that 6th spot, you're rocking 500, like you can't give up a week type of thing. Like there is something to that, but it is in 4th place, first in points. So this is a very well constructed roster there. So I would look about seeing if I could get Myers back, getting and then trying to trade for Connor, and seeing if a deal of Leggett, Warren, and Njoku gets it going. Whereas it'll likely require stepping up and taking on if you've got to offer up McConkey, Tillman, or Smith, right, to kind of make the needle move there. I could see that one, but and then too, right, if Najee doesn't play this week, doesn't play next week, like that Warren pick looks pretty darn good at that point. So there's some of that there. So I could see making a move on that one. I wouldn't sell the farm on that one, but if you're looking to get another running back, I wouldn't have a problem trying to package Njoku with Warren and seeing what I could get on that one to try and go out and get a solid back at RB2, upper end RB3 type of thing. You see what you could get for a. I mean, at that point, I'd rather have like Rico Dwaddle than Warren. I mean, I don't know what else you could try and move that dial there, but maybe try and get one of the Tampa Bay running backs there. Like that could be another type of option there. So, then at that point, if you're kind of in that RB3 range, you're looking more at a packaging Warren and Njoku to try and go out and get somebody. Like that's how I would kind of look at that one. Any other thoughts on this one?
Nah, no.
Kells, asking Jalen Warren or Ramondre Stevenson. It's Ramondre for me.
Yeah, it's Ramondre. Yeah, it's Ramondre.
Okay. Terrence, start 3 this week. Chase, Cup, Nico, Adams. Say very solid wide receiver core.
Start 3.
Start 3.
Chase,
Jamar Chase
Cup,
is
Nico if he's playing.
Yep.
If not, it's Adams.
Right. That's kind of how I'd look at that one as well.
And wow, good job, Terrence.
Right. Daniel over on YouTube. Hi, I got offered Swift for Mixon. Couldn't keep help laughing out loud. Want to counter. Does Mixon plus CD for AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, and Swift make more sense? They have James Conner, Pollard, Chubbs, Collins, D Hop, and Myers. Yeah, it makes sense. You may have a hard time. I mean, you've got the name power on the side with both Mixon and CD.
Yeah. So here's what I think. I think right now we're looking at, this is full point. I'm looking at these numbers here, but full point PPR. CD Lamb is wide receiver number 5, but I think on a downward trajectory, right? We don't anticipate him staying.
Rest of the season, I think it's probably fair to say that he's a middling wide receiver 2 in that kind of range. Right?
Terry McLaurin right now, wide receiver number 7.
And he's still a top 12 rest of the season.
Would say is going to be a top 12 the rest of the way. So I think that best player in this trade right now is Terry McLaurin. No,
I would lean on the Mixon side of things, right? Like I think Joe Mixon is a top 5 RB rest of the season. So I put that over Terry McLaurin, right? Like and don't get me wrong, I'm a very big believer in Terry McLaurin this season with the Jaden Daniels experience there. But between the two, right? Like I think I would rather have AJ Brown over Terry McLaurin rest of the season as well, right? Like I think you've got AJ Brown as a top 5 wide receiver, Terry McLaurin is a top 12, Swift is a top 24 running back. So wide receiver 1, wide receiver 1 and RB2 for a running back 1 and a wide receiver 2 is kind of where I see this one.
He already has Connor, Pollard, Chubb, Collins.
Now, I don't know that, right? Like you look at this thing, it actually doesn't help the running back room there. Because you go from Mixon, who I think's kind of a top 5 running back rest of the season, to go to James Conner, Pollard, Chubb. So you've got a back end running back 1 to top end running back 2 with Conner. Pollard's a back end RB2, and Chubb is kind of in that back end RB2 as well.
Yeah.
So you've got like 3 straight RB2s. At that point is kind of where we're just going to lump that into.
Yeah.
Adding Swift into it, you now have 4 running backs that are running back 2 essentially.
Yep.
Right. Your wide receivers, Collins, wide receiver 1, D Hop, I think you have to almost have him ascended to a very solid wide receiver 2 at this point with the trade to Kansas City and what he's fit in there.
Yeah.
CD is a very solid wide receiver 2 rest of the season as well. Jacoby Myers, I think it's fair to say Jacoby Myers is in that wide receiver 2 range as well. Back end wide receiver 2, top end wide receiver 3. So you're giving up RB1, wide receiver 2 to get wide receiver 1, and running back 2.
I don't know. I'm on the AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin side of things.
Yeah.
That's the side I'm on.
I just don't like what it does to the running back side of things in this this particular scenario.
Yeah.
And in the aggregate side of things, yes, you're right. In the aggregate, I think I'd rather have the AJ Brown, McLaurin, Swift side of things. But from what I can start week in, week out,
Right.
especially if this is only a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex type of roster construct. If it's a 3 wide receiver, 1 flex, or even 3 wide receiver, 2 flex, like yes. But I mean, you can counter back and see what they've got. They may very well say no, but I think at least at that point you're in the ballpark of a conversation. Any other thoughts on this one?
No.
All right. White Tiger saying, "Sup, fellas? Not much. We're doing the Tuesday show on a Wednesday tonight." Nino, is it crazy to send Reed and Ingram for Neighbors? They've got Goddard as well. Man, I don't know.
No, I don't think it's crazy. Like Malik Neighbors, Jaden Reed is boom bust, right?
Right. So
Evan Ingram
a little bit, but
yeah, Malik Neighbors has been boom bust, but Malik Neighbors has been a touch more consistent than Jaden Reed. A touch, not by much, but a touch more.
Yeah, I'm okay to send it and see what the conversation looks like there.
Oh, actually, I take that back. Malik Neighbors has been much more consistent than Jaden Reed.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Evan Ingram has really kind of come on as being kind of that more solid guy and tight end consistent player that we've seen there. So, yeah, it's not crazy to send that one. I'd send it and see if I can get a conversation going.
Yeah.
All right, White Tiger, how do you feel about Brian Robinson and T. Higgins for DK? Need another solid wide receiver. Yeah, I like the DK side of that more than the other.
Man, you just hope that DK can get right. That's the big thing. You just need. It's tough to trade for somebody who may or may not play. You know.
Right. Jelly of the month evening, guys. Lots of buys and need to pick up PPR flex, Jalen Warren, Estimate, or Parasol.
Estimate guys all over the place, right? If you logged into any app today, he was the hot commodity on the waiver wire.
Right. Well, it certainly seemed to have supplanted Javonte Williams on the depth chart at this point. And if he can get some receiving work, holy moly, like
you'd have to like that against an Atlanta team. They're at home.
Yeah. If Najee misses this week, it's Jalen Warren. If not in a PPR side of things, then I like the Parasol over the Estimate just from the PPR side of it, because what did we not see Estimate do at all? Catch the football.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I lean on that one. Who should I drop for Xavier Worthy, Javonte or Alexander Madison?
I think Javonte.
As much as I don't want to say that, I think you're right.
Yeah. Man, is there anybody like, and maybe we just see it because we follow the team so closely, but if you get into is there another coach that if you get in the doghouse, you are just done more than Sean Payton? Like, holy cow, if you get into Sean Payton's doghouse, you just don't exist anymore. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter if you're the franchise quarterback that they just spent $500 million to bring in. If you're in the doghouse, yeah, see you later.
Or the guys that were on your roster that weren't good enough to make your roster, but are now players seeing actual playing time for the two teams that have the best record in football in both divisions. So
yeah,
I mean, is what it is, right?
To answer your question there, either one is fine.
Yeah.
Either one's fine. I would lean Javonte.
So, Jelly of the month. Other leagues, defense, special team, Miami versus Las Vegas, or the Rams at New England. Thanks.
Give me so Minshew's coming back for Las Vegas. I think they'll chuck it around a little bit, but man, does he a turnover machine this year? So give me Miami. Give me Miami.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that one as well. Matt over on YouTube, 10-team PPR redraft starters: Herbert, Hall, Kamara, AJ Brown, London, Lamb, Ingram, benches: Laporta, Worthy, Dwaddle, Irving, Nix, Parasol, Estime. I'm 5-5. Thoughts on any improvements on this team?
Man, you're in the same boat I am. You have awesome talent, and it just has not worked for you. Brees Hall and Alvin Kamara, like, man, you had to be feeling so good about yourself week 1 and week 2, and then it's just like, where's Brees Hall then? And what the hell has happened to Justin Herbert? Which he's coming on here of late, but I think you're good. I think you just need your dudes to play. You need them to live up to what you picked them at.
Right.
I think you're fine.
Yeah, I don't know that there's much that I would go out to improve on this thing.
You just need them to live up to their potential.
I mean, that one of those that maybe I'm trying to make a move to get a little bit more depth at running back. But I mean, with Dwaddle there, right? You've got somebody that you can plug and play if need be, and
Bucky Irving's there,
right? Bucky Irving certainly come on strong there, and Estime is a guy that we could very well see this to the point where you've got very suitable running back twos for depth there.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm making a move on this one.
Yep.
George, would you trade away Ridley and Hawkinson for Neighbors in half point PPR? No, I want the Hawkinson.
No, I want Hawkinson too.
Right. Especially what we've seen out of Ridley too recently.
I wish I had more shares of Hawkinson.
Yep. Terrence over on YouTube. I roster Connor and Kyron Williams. Already have Corum on the bench waiting to pick up Benson for insurance. Is Brian Thomason Jr. droppable at this point on bye week 12? I won't start him rest of the season. I don't know that necessarily you want to go and drop Brian Thomason Jr.
Yeah, I don't think that's,
especially for a backup running back that you're trying to go out and just handcuff.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Brian Thomas Jr. than Benson. And I get that you're trying to handcuff and have the insurance on that one, but roster construct, I don't know that if James Conner misses, Benson's a straight swap in there. And I think, I think if he misses, you'll see an aggregate running back approach.
Yep. And I think you might see Kyler throwing the ball a little bit more.
Right. Silky, Dobbs over Worthy. Starting this week? Maybe. Silky, Dobbs, Worthy, Parasol, Jameson, or Watson. Out of all of those, I'd take my shot on JMO this week. Any other thoughts there?
I'm not sure I like Worthy this week. They're at Buffalo. If Worthy does this week, like if he goes off this week, it's because he has like a crazy long touchdown, right? Like it's not because he's going to get fed, 8 receptions on 12 targets. Like I don't think that's going to be how.
Right, he's like a 3-touch guy.
Yeah, and you better hope that one of those touches goes for 75 yards and ends in painted grass.
Right.
So I think it's funny because Worthy, Pearsall, Jameson, like those are all kind of dudes that I think have the same. It's the same player, right? It's the same. You hope that they hit a 75-yarder for a touchdown, and that makes the week. I think you could throw Watson in on that. So safest is Dobbs, and then if you're willing to gamble, I mean, roll the dice on either one, like any one of those three. Maybe not Watson.
I like the Jameson side of things because, we've seen it before where Detroit will feature him and get him 6-7 targets in a week, right? Like that is sometimes 2 or 3 weeks for the rest of these guys combined. So that's where I would lean Jameson, but I like the Dobbs route as well. All righty. Should I drop Kirko for Rodgers this week? I get the matchup there, but
no.
I don't.
No. No.
Realistically, I think that this is between those two quarterbacks, it's a race to who can get to like 15 points at the position. And I think when it's all said and done, you're going to see these guys within a point of each other. So I'd rather have Kirko long term.
Yep.
Chris over on YouTube, Tillman over London this week. Tillman draws Lattimore's Saints secondary, and London has a super tough matchup with Surtain.
This is a valid question. I think Tillman probably gets a bit more looks. And London has to go up against Pat Surtain, who is establishing himself as one of the best corners in the league. So I think I would lean Tillman this week.
Yeah. I get it. I really do.
You don't want Drake London to have a bad week.
No, I don't. But even taking it outside of that, right? Like, am I going to bench the wide receiver 4 on the season and a guy that's very involved in the offense because he has a bad matchup over a guy that, yes, they have some issues in Cleveland. He's been getting fed. All right. He's getting double-digit targets there. I get the appeal, and I wouldn't blame somebody for taking the Tillman route over London, but personally, I'd probably still roll out London and just see what I've got there, because I kind of have a hard time benching a guy that's been pretty darn solid just week in, week out for my fantasy roster. To kind of ride the hot hand there, right? Like, yeah, it's kind of where I see it. And I think we'll see Denver move him around, or not Atlanta move him around enough that because Surtain really doesn't travel sides of the field, so I think we'll see him move him around enough that we'll still see him get a decent outcome. Jason traded Garrett Wilson, Cedric Wilson for Jaden Daniels, Adams, Harrison. Did I win or no? Yeah, I like the trade.
It was fine.
Yeah, and it's always tough to say, a trade won or lost. That's we'll know in about 7 weeks is usually my kind of answer on that one, because it's whoever helps you win a championship at that point, right? So
yeah.
Jason also saying also traded Pollard and Hawkinson, who never started because they have Kittle for CD. Did I win or no? Right at the time, it certainly made sense. Now it looks a little bit rougher with Dak not going to be returning.
Yeah, I think this one's a little rough.
Yeah,
I can understand wanting to move off of Hawkinson because you had Kittle. That's a good piece to get something.
Right.
And you did. Realistically, you traded Pollard and Hawkinson for CD Lamb for like a high-end wide receiver 1 right now.
Right. So
he's just not going to stay high-end wide receiver 1, I don't think, the rest of the way.
Right. It's very much one of those that when it's all said and done, we're going to see what this thing looks like. And kind of the way that I always judge these things is if that trade helps you hoist the trophy at the end of the season, you won it. If you didn't win, if you didn't win the league, and the other team that you traded with also didn't win the league,
you didn't lose it.
you didn't lose the trade, but certainly didn't win it either. So, alrighty. George over on YouTube, would you trade away Hawkinson and Ridley for Nabbers and half-point PPR? It has Kelsey as tight end 1.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, Ridley's good. Ouch. Ridley's good. I think Ridley and Neighbors are negligible, as Derek has pointed out. Kind of the rest of the way here.
Yeah, with Kelsey there, I'm doing the deal.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Mr. Wumbo saying he's got Otten and Goddard. I think that's back to that trade question from earlier.
Question that I think we answered already.
Okay. Alrighty. And then Terry circling back to the KC, Denver, our KC defense, special teams, Rams defense, special teams. Also have Denver, but they're playing against ATL this week. KC has Buffalo, while the Rams and that pass rush are facing off against New England. Yeah, I get it. I'm still going to go with KC this week out of all of those, I think.
Yeah, of course.
I'm just double checking here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to change my pick there. To rest of the season, I'd rather have KC, but
this week?
Rest of season, I'd rather have KC, but this week I would rather play either the Broncos or the Rams over KC.
Against Buffalo, yeah.
Yeah, and at that point, I think the Rams probably have the best matchup this week. So that's kind of where I would look at it. Rest of the season, I'd rather have Denver and KC. This week, I'd play the Rams. Chandler, JMO or Myers PPR? I'm going with Jacoby Myers this week.
Go for it.
All righty. Mr. Wumbo saying thanks a lot. And Silky 10-person PPR, Murray, CMC, Connor, Tyron Tracy, Higgins, Ridley, Engram, the 49ers defense, and Fairbairn. The kicker bench is Devontae, Judy, Madison, Kirko, Dobbs, Pitts, and Hill. What should I improve upon? You have got to get some wide receivers.
You need some wide receivers. You need CMC to actually play.
Right, which we saw that return. And
we did. But yeah, you could use some wide receivers. If you could flip, I mean, Javonte is basically worthless at this point. Madison, basically worthless at this point.
I mean, Madison's still got some believers out there. So maybe try and package a Ridley and Madison and flip that to see if you could ride the couple of hot hand starts that we've seen Ridley have here, and see if you can go out and get maybe a Cooper Kupp, maybe a DK Metcalf. Maybe a Neighbors, right? Like, I'm looking to try and improve that wide receiver room is really where I'm looking to do. So
maybe a Sutton. Sutton's really turned it on the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a Cortland Sutton, and that one you could get cheaper.
Yeah, you probably could.
Right, like
probably get a Cortland Sutton for much cheaper.
Right.
That's where I'd look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Start 2. D-Hop, Tillman, Cook, Devonta Smith, and Chubb. I think I'm going to go with, I don't know. What are your thoughts here?
I'm thinking, hold on. I'm looking at matchups here. You gave me dudes from all different areas here.
So James Cook is in. I'm probably just targeting that Kansas City and Buffalo game, to be honest with you, because I do think that we're going to see some points get put up in that one. So I'm going to go with James Cook. DeAndre Hopkins is probably where I'm at in that one. But I also wouldn't argue with anybody if they decided they wanted to start Devonta Smith over DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, I think I'd like. I just hate that it's a Thursday, but I think I'd like Devonta Smith over D-Hop.
Fair enough. Matt saying they traded for Hall and Kamara mid-season and they were down bad at running back. Yeah,
Oh, you did well to get those two on your roster. Well done.
Yes, you did. Bowers or Otten rest of season tight end.
Look, Bowers has been let down because his quarterback can't figure out what team he needs to throw it to. Somehow, some way, he still managed to be tight end 2 overall. So give me, I think Bowers, but man, I don't think you can go wrong with either.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You're in great shape if that's really where you're coming down to. Bowers, we've seen Bowers get it done without falling into the end zone. Cade Otten's when he finishes well, it's been because of at least a touchdown in there.
Yeah.
Mike Evans likely returning, and returning quickly. So I think that certainly limits the Otten touchdown upside. So I'd rather go Bowers myself at that one. Alrighty. And then we're going to hit up these last 4 comments. We're calling it a night here. Cam the Ham, start to Pickens, Adams, Tillman, or London.
I like Adams. And I think so I'm going to go Adams, I think, is my absolute start. I think London's got a tough matchup this week, right? Pat Surtain and the Broncos. Pickens is going to be going up against a porous Baltimore secondary. So give me Adams, Pickens.
Fair enough. I'm going to take London, and I'm going to take Adams at that point.
So we agree on Adams, and London is if you're willing to take the risk.
Right. You know what? You talked me into it. I'm going to go with the George Pickens and the Devontae Adams side of things. But I also am realizing that with George Pickens, I'm taking the boom bust and what that's going to look like there. Realizing that I also want to make sure that I've got roster constructs there that if that doesn't turn out very well, I can pivot. I've got enough other things there. But yeah, Pickens certainly probably has the best ceiling play out of that one, and then Adams has the good matchup there as well. So yeah, I'm there with you. I changed my mind. Alrighty, and Jamie, say what up, bros? Not much. Jamie, we were wrapping it up, saying that he's a little late to the party. That's all right.
It's all good.
Alrighty, and then Jamie saying that they made a trade today and a retool, gave up AJ Brown and Swift for Rashee Rice, 2025 mid to late, and a 2026 first. Yeah, I could see that. One of the things that I'd be concerned about is the Rashee Rice side of it is what all the legal things that are going on, how that ultimately plays out, and what that looks like going into next season. But also getting 2 firsts for that as well. I don't think that, that certainly mitigates that as well. And you can certainly make some moves off of that one as well. So
yeah,
Jamie's saying they went from worst to first to mid. Now they're mid again, but trying to play with free money to rebuild.
Well, there you go.
Fair enough. All righty, guys, that's going to do it for us. Jamie, that's the very last one there. Also,
Mr. Wumbo.
You got it in at the buzzer. All right. Mr. Wumbo, you are the last one tonight, my friend. Jamie saying they also have their first, which helps, which is top 4 Superflex. Awesome. Yeah. So you can certainly do some rebuilding there. Mr. Wumbo, look for lower end RBs to fill in the roster for the week 12 Bijan buy. Some people could possibly trade Ladd for Rashad White, Najee Harris, Rico Dwaddle, or maybe even Brian Robinson Jr.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with either of those. And quite frankly, if you go out and get Najee, you've now got the Pittsburgh backfield locked up there as well.
Yeah.
So They said, no, you can go to bed. It's fine. Either I'll do that, or am I just starting Tillman at flex rest of the season with one of those RBs on the bench, and for the bye, just stick with Bijan and Hunt rest of the season and flip between Ladd and Tillman at the flex. Yeah, I don't mind the flipping back and forth between Ladd and Tillman at this point, right?
Yeah.
Like if you want to go out there and get a running back for the depth, I don't mind that. But I'd probably be looking to try and do a package deal with Njoku and Warren to try and get your deal there. Jamie saying would keep Ladd. Hunt won't be startable in the fantasy playoffs. Jamie, a little bit late to the conversation there, but he also has the stack of Hunt and Pacheco there. So he's got Casey's defense our backfield locked up with Hunt Pacheco. He's got Atlanta's running backs locked up with Bijan and Algier, and then he's got Warren hanging out as the running back 3 basically on the roster there. So that's kind of how that looks and works. But yeah, I don't mind if you want to go out and get a different running back there. So I'm sure some random Bozo RB will pop off on the waivers down the road. Yes, absolutely. Maybe it's Audric Estime, and we've already seen that one. And then Pacheco will be cool for the playoffs. All right. That is all the questions, comments, concerns for the night. Alex, any final thoughts for the show?
No, hoping that the old at the old home league here I can start rattling off a few wins.
Yeah. I think you've got the dogs to hunt. So it'll be.
And also thanks for everyone for tuning in on a special Wednesday edition of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast.
Absolutely. We'll be back on the Freeze Day underneath those fantasy football Friday night lights, the old fantasy football huddle, and the bet set snap there. We're going to be back Friday looking at the games, answering all those questions, all the good stuff there. And like Alex said, thanks for everybody tuning in, chiming in. It's always so much fun to get the questions and interact and all of that. And I like the final thought, Jamie, so I'm letting this one in here. Final thought from Jamie: win trophies because nobody likes a loser. So go out and get the cash and trophies. I like it. But that's going to do it for us tonight. He's Alex. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.